Welcome to sunny Nordfjord on the west coast of Norway, and in the background you can see directly towards a small city called Stryn. What I'm going to show you today is the 3D log matrix. Because around us we could see that there is 3 dimensions, but it is the verticality that is dominating here. So on this little hill here, I'm just going to use this log, and I'm just going to follow the vectors of function, and I'm going to load the trunk muscles in 3 dimensions by using something as basic as this log that we got here.
The terrain will induce a position of right lateral flexion, and the load will also induce a load into right lateral flexion. Position into left lateral flexion, load into right lateral flexion. Positioning into right lateral flexion, while now the load is into left lateral flexion. Position into left lateral flexion and load into left lateral flexion. Diagonal pattern, load into right lateral flexion, position right lateral flexion. Extension, position right lateral flexion, load right lateral flexion. Now position left lateral flexion. Uphill will induce more flexion, position right lateral flexion, load left lateral flexion, and now you just change pre-positioning to a position of left lateral flexion. Extension, position right lateral flexion, and load left lateral flexion. Now you change into position of left lateral flexion. Flexion with more posterior load. More extension and posterior load. Flexion with a right lateral flexion load. Extension with right lateral flexion load. More flexion with left lateral flexion load. Extension with left lateral flexion load. Induced extension with an uphill pattern. More extension with a downhill pattern. Right lateral flexion load. Prepositioning into left or right lateral flexion focuses on controlling the rotation of the turns. The log is fairly light in this movie, so a heavier load can be used. Right lateral flexion load, more of an extension going downhill, focusing on controlling the turns with the load. Going uphill will induce more of a flexed posture, and again focusing on controlling the rotatory motion with each and every turn that you make going uphill. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this simple way of loading your trunk muscles in a very functional manner.